I'm very happy to be here today. We'll try and keep this lecture straight in the middle. They've got me on tape here. Somebody will pull mine. I never like to be thought of as a controversial speaker, but sometimes the truth seems to be that. I think our first and prime consideration is the fact that, as I mentioned last night, we are meditators, and we do have a purpose. We are selective, certainly, and I do know that we do have the highest teaching that exists on earth today. When I first met Maharishi, this is the first thing that he impressed me with. He said, I have to give man what no one has to give. And it really was somewhat of a disappointment to Maharishi and a surprise that people did not beat a path to his door in order to be given the highest teaching. But then again, when we think about it, you have to have actually that level of consciousness, or the consciousness of receptivity, to receive this teaching. And has been said, and even as Christ said, that some are given this teaching and they receive it on rocky soil and it doesn't bear fruit. Some are given the teaching with great joy and the devil comes and snatches it away. Some are given this teaching, or the word, with shallow soil, and when trouble comes because of the word or because of the development, they fall away. And yet others are given this, and it bears fruit 30-fold, yea, even 100-fold. And I think that the main thing and the main consideration that we have as meditators is just simply we are going to persevere. We all have faith in Maharishi. We all have faith in what he teaches and what he has taught us. But we also have to have faith in ourselves. Simply that we will not fall away. Simply that we will not cease to meditate, but that we will continue. And the longest journey certainly has to start with the first step. And as we proceed, and as we continue on our path, each step certainly leads us closer to the goal. And this is what we want. This is our full and total desire, is to accomplish the goal. And the goal is just simply, we are trading mortality for immortality. And this is the simple truth of the matter. Immortality just simply means to live actually in an unbroken state of bliss consciousness, and to become one with, never to go back out. Even again, as it says in the scriptures, to become one, to become a pillar in my temple, and never again go forth. This is the desire, and this is the total reason for Maharishi being out into the world and bringing this teaching. And even as I said last night, he has never ever deviated from this. No matter what the situation may have been or may be, he continues. Now, as he says, Wes, and through this determination and through his perseverance and maintaining the word constantly in the world, that pretty much we have reached the goal as far as the validity of transcendental meditation being established, as far as the physical movement being established in the world. Now what we need certainly is the fulfillment of this. And the fulfillment of transcendental meditation is just simply to have everyone meditating correctly, so that they again will realize that they have the way, as Maharishi says, the highway to the goal. And this, I think, is the main and essential reason that we continue as meditators. Now, certainly, we realize that we have been for a long, long, long time on the wheel of birth and death. The great preponderance of humanity is clinging to the rim of the wheel. And they're buffeted by every rut in the road, every bump, every obstacle, but they cling tenaciously. Now there are those who have said there must be a better way here. There must be something better than we know. I think if we go up one of these spokes, it'll be more comfortable. This is called religion. And by faith we do. We go up the spoke until finally we reach the hub of the wheel. Now the hub of the wheel is the quietude of the wheel. This could be called heaven, could be called a celestial world, could be called anything beyond the physical world. But then again, this isn't what we're seeking. We're not seeking the solitude, the quietude of the hub. What we're seeking is to escape the wheel entirely. And we can only escape the wheel if we go to the source of creation itself, the source of the Creator, the source of the Almighty, the unknowable, the omniscient. If we go to this, and we begin to infuse this into our own mind, into our own body, then eventually we become this. And as it is said, at any time that we realize that we are the Atman, we are that, and that I am. And this is the path to that realization. Now what Maharishi has always said is that our objective is to occupy, to control, to gain the fort. Now there are many outposts on the way to the fort, certainly. We are not concerned with the outposts. We are not concerned with psychic paths. We're not concerned with psychic realms or psychic diversions. Because entering any path at the level of the path, we become a slave of the path for thousands of years. We can never master it. We can only become the master if we occupy the fort. And as he has said many times, occupying the fort, certainly, we automatically become the master of any outpost. So this is the reason why we have the highest teaching. We are not going the way of sensation. We're going the path of liberation. And there's quite a difference. So many in the world are looking for sensation. We've been totally, you might say, geared for sensation. We've been totally oriented for sensation. And this is what we constantly seek. The sensation, certainly, that we gain through the senses and through seeking diversion, you might say, in external life, when the life that we are, what we really amount to, what we have always been, is the internal. And I think today, because we are going through an epoch and a period of epoch and pressure, really, and in this particular epoch, which is a change that's being affected in the whole world, we're feeling the pressure. All humanity is feeling the pressure. They'll feel more and more pressure. And as the pressure increases, it's a peculiarity of humans that they attempt assiduously to maintain the status quo, whatever that may be. They attempt to keep this. They're moved by this pressure. And they realize what I have been seeking out here in the external doesn't offer me anything. They have actually been searching for the answer of darkness in darkness. And I think, as was mentioned last night, all is needed is to project light. You can't find the light unless you go where the light is, or where the switch to that light is. And that is in the transcendental. It is transcending the whole field of relativity. Now, the field of relativity is a very vast field. It's so vast that it's almost inconceivable to human mind. But vast as it is, it has limitations. Vast as it is, it has boundaries. Transcendental meditation is a way, a means of transcending this boundary and beginning to infuse into the nature of our mind and in our body the purification and the bliss. Now we begin to reflect this. And as we continue to meditate, we grow in meditation, we reflect more and more of this. Now obviously, Maharishi can put us on the path. He can connect us to the source. As he said, what I do, I connect you to the powerhouse. We have to become our own power. He cannot meditate for us. We meditate for ourselves. And we might say that As selfish beings, we have a very selfish motive to become selfless. But it's the right form of selfishness. All the other selfishness we've known has been for external reasons. This selfishness is for eternal, internal reasons. So this, I think, is what our meditation's about. Our technique is simple, and I might say this, that it's all-inclusive. We don't need to add anything to our technique. We don't need to add anything to our meditation, except what we're given in the meditation. And I notice throughout the United States lately, there has been a tremendous inclination to add a little of this and add a little of that and take a little of this away and put a little of this in, and I don't know for what reason. Some say, well, if I dance, if I go into Tai Chi, if I go into this, if I go into that, these things are not necessary. If they had have been, Maharishi would have given them to you. Now, he gave the extra techniques because this is beneficial to us as meditators, and it has a very definite point and purpose as a meditator. But not these peculiar practices that we see, and we'll see more and more of them. This is why I'm bringing this up. More and more of these things are coming to light. More and more of these things are coming into evidence and into manifestation. But we don't wish to be caught up in this, in any sense of the word, no matter what. Let's don't get into some peculiar practices. If we hear about it, just stay away from it. Because there's an inclination on the part of many, well, I'll find out what it's about. Well, I'll try it once. I'll do this. It can't possibly hurt. Maybe it won't. But why take that chance, and why do that? Because today, you understand, there are forces. There's the positive forces and the negative forces. We're on the positive side, but the negative forces certainly would like to put us back on their side. They've had us for an age or two, you know, and they don't like the loss. But if we persevere, if we just simply go straight ahead and just do what we're supposed to do in a very simple, systematic way, we can't help but gain the goal. And as Maharishi said many times, when Lord Gautama Buddha went to Nirvana, he took 500 with him. Maharishi will take thousands, and that's the difference. Now, in taking thousands, he's not going to say, I'll take you, and unfortunately I can't take you, I'll take you. Not at all. He's going to take the ones who have earned that right, who have persevered, who have been devoted, who have been sincere, and who have prosecuted the goal. These are the ones. It's always the same. Anyone referring to someone else's success often will say, he was very lucky. He wasn't lucky. He earned that. He worked hard. He did what was necessary to do in order to gain that. The same thing applies to us. We have the goal laid out for us. Maharishi's made the path very clear. It's very, very well defined and delineated. And all we have to do is just simply do that. And I don't know of anything else that is needed or is necessary. As Maharishi has said oftentimes, this is a very simple technique. And what we need to do is to keep it simple. But you know, we're Westerners. We have an analytical mind. We wish to analyze everything. Where am I? Where am I going? Where have I been? What's coming next? When's the excitement start? And so forth. This we're always looking for. All that will be there. And there's also, I have noticed, a tremendous desire for powers. Oh, give me powers. Let me have powers. Powers, really, they can be given, but they're a curse unless you have the spiritual integration to balance, to offset, or to handle any of these powers. Now, certainly as you grow in meditation, as you increase in your own purity, these powers come automatically. Automatically. Like a girl in New York City was telling me recently, she said, do you know, all of a sudden, I've been meditating now 4 years, and all of a sudden, I'm able to see auras. I said, you are? She said, oh yes, now I can see auras. And I said, well, what's the problem? she said, I ride the subway up almost to Harlem, to Spanish Harlem. And she said, oh, those people that are on that subway. She said, I see all their murderous thoughts and everything. She said, I'm afraid to get on the subway. I said, were you afraid before you gained this ability? She said, no. I said, then look at them in the same light. Just get on the subway and just ride the subway and get off. And don't be worrying about the fact that they have murderous thoughts. They had them before you knew it. They haven't changed. Simply you've changed. But all is totality. All that we have, all that we will be given, it'll all be there. It's simply our own development. Maharishi is the only one that I know of who's come out into the world, and he said, I will take you at whatever level of consciousness you are, and I will start you from there. And you will grow from that point. Now, if you've ever been out in India, and if you've ever talked to any of the ones there that have the individual teachings of tradition, they spend a long, long time with you to bring you up to a certain point before you're given the real initiation to go on. And Maharishi starts you there. And just as he said, we're not spending a lifetime in hoping for some result or hoping for some experience. We're starting with the experience. And at that point, we begin to live the experience. Now, obviously, if you come out of meditation, you have increased energy, you have a happy nature and frame of mind, and you're becoming more intelligent. This certainly is a very valid experience. Plus the fact that this grows and continues to grow as we meditate. So I don't know any other teaching on earth that's given in the sincerity that Transcendental Meditation is given in, or in the completeness. And as Maharishi has said, we are to really be the light bearers in this coming age. And we're coming into an age. I was asked if I would mention this. Certainly we're coming into another age. We're coming into an age, as Maharishi said, the age of fulfillment. We're coming into the age of spirituality. And this is what will prevail. Well, that which is of a destructive nature, that which is of hate, of destruction, unwholesome desire, and so forth, won't be there. It simply won't be there. The people who expound this will not be there. Therefore, there has to be, like anything else, a cleansing. And the earth must cleanse itself. Even our whole system will cleanse itself. All this will take place, and is taking place. And we're seeing it right before our very eyes. Now this will possibly intensify. But there's one thing we can remember. We are on the right side. And we are doing all we can do. We are meditating. We're teaching. We're out lecturing, helping in any way that we can. We are doing what we can do. And we do it with dignity. We're not standing on the street corners, jumping up and down, acting in a peculiar way. We're acting in a very normal, natural way. And people are attracted to us. And I think you've noticed, since you've become meditators, certainly I have noticed many times, that ones who come to Transcendental Meditation come because of the change that they have seen in someone that they know, someone that they're related to, married to, or whatever, work for, work with. It's just like a man brought his boss the other day. And his boss said, I've been watching Fred for a long time. And he says, a tremendous change has come over Fred. Fred says, I haven't noticed any change. Well, naturally, he probably hasn't, because he's becoming natural. There's no great contrast, in becoming natural. The great contrast is when we become more unnatural. But certainly his boss had noticed this. And he said, I've observed this change. And now he said, I want to start the practice of Transcendental Meditation. So people are in the world attracted to us. Oddly enough, we do emulate vibrations into the atmosphere, either positive, negative, or in some cases, a little one, a little the other, or maybe neutral. But mostly, we're either positive or we're negative. Now, if we emit negative vibrations or emanations into the atmosphere is of a peculiar nature. It absorbs this, and it absorbs just as much as it possibly can absorb. When it cannot absorb any more, it has to erupt, and it will erupt. This eruption manifests in the form of a war, cataclysmic event, Holocaust, and so forth, because it's nature really purifying itself. It can't stand any more of this. But we as meditators, we are emanating into the atmosphere emanations that are positive, and they have a positive effect. And I think the thing that has been ascertained here of late is that it has a far greater effect than we've realized. One person meditating, and as I've heard Maharishi say so many times, that 90% of the people of the world meditating would offset, 10% of the people of the world meditating would offset 90% of the negativity. And I've also been informed recently by Maharishi that this has intensified. This has even stepped up considerably. Fewer meditators now have a greater effect than it even was thought so before. So we do know what we're about, and we do know we're on the right path, and we do know that we will reach the goal. So this is what we're about. I was asked if I would comment on this a little bit, and I think it's very essential. I think ever so often we should stop and take stock and review a little bit just exactly what we're doing and where we're going. Now we have a lot of unstressing sometimes to go through. We all have to go through this. There's no possibility to bypass it. If you're going to become purified and you're contaminated, or there's an overlay of layers of mud on you, and it has to be scraped off and cleaned off, sometimes this isn't the most pleasant sensation. You know, in the beginning, when we just had Maharishi, and I was starting to unstress, I'd rush to Maharishi to tell him the horrors of what was going on. He'd listen, he'd say, bliss, bliss. I'd hurry home, get the dictionary. I said, I've misunderstood this word all my life. But actually, finally it dawned on me that this is what he was talking about. If I got rid of the impurities, what filled that void? Bliss. So he was just saying it in a simple way. Bliss. It doesn't seem like it, certainly at the time. And I remember, maybe some of you have heard this, when he left for the first time, I heard some of the ladies talking, Mother Olson and a few more, and they said, confidentially, secretly, he's just going to be gone 6 weeks. But he told me, he said, I'm going now on my trek, and I may be gone a year or so before I'll be back. But they had the inside news. So when he left, in those days we had the piston jobs, and we had to go out to the field for him to get onto the plane, walk out. And as he started up the ladder, he turned around and he said, Charlie, I want you to promise me something. And I said, what's that, Maharishi? And he says, I want you to promise me that you will meditate every morning and every night until I return. I said, sure, anything. And lighted up in my head, he's only been gone 6 weeks. Anybody can do anything for that long. And he said, you will do this? I said, yes, I will do this. And just before he stepped into the plane, he turned around once again, and he said, Charlie? I said, yes. He said, you have promised me. I said, yes, I have. He was gone 23 months. What a horror that was. And every day and every night. And so I went through this ungodly fear. Fear, it was terrible. And it got to where I wouldn't go to bed. Then I couldn't stay up any longer. I was in terrible shape. But I knew what was coming. I knew exactly what was coming, and I was never disappointed. I got it every night. This terrible unstressing. This fear. Finally, I told Helen, my wife, one morning, I said, you know, I think I've just about had it. And she says, you will have had it when you finish it. And she said, you gave your word to Maharishi, and that you should keep. I said, okay, leave it. But when he came back, as he came down the ladder of the plane, and I'd walked out on the field to meet him, as he walked toward me, he started to smile. And he says, you have done as I ask you. You have done as I ask you. He said, you have meditated morning and night while I was gone. I said, I sure have. And he says, that is very good. Very good. Well, about 3 days later, all heaven fell in on me. And you can't complain about that. So what I am actually saying is this. We all have to be crucified on our own cross. True. The cross is a symbol, you know. The vertical represents spirituality. The horizontal represents materiality. We have to be crucified on that cross. We must. Because the things of this earth are of this earth. They are material things. They seem to be of worth, but they're not. They seem to have great attraction and great value, but in the ultimate they don't. But while we're here, and reality is reality. We can't deny that we're here because we are here. We have to live in life. This is an essential. We are humans for this purpose. To live in life and to outgrow life. Maharishi simply given us a means, a method, a technique where we can now immediately go directly to the goal. And more than this, no one can be given. In a way, we might say, well, we're sacrificing something, but no. Actually, we're sacrificing very little for very much, for everything, and for all there is. For eternity, to become one with, as I said before, to gain that state of unbroken bliss consciousness, cosmic consciousness, God consciousness, unity consciousness, Brahman consciousness, to gain this. And we'll all be given this. And you know, as Maharishi said, he said, you know what I am offering? I am offering to man the keys to the kingdom of heaven. But in many cases, he's looked upon this as a burden, and he's thrown the keys away. We have not thrown the keys away. We have maintained, we have persevered, and we will overcome. I understand also that some want to ask some questions relating to meditation, I hope.